Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I'm packing up for a big move. But since you're here, let's do another episode of Learning Second Trumpet Excerpts. My name is Anthony Prisk, and I play second trumpet in the Philadelphia Orchestra. I also teach at the Peabody Institute and Temple University. Where do you think I should put this box? I guess I can't put this away just yet. For this episode number 7, we're going to take a look at an excerpt from the first movement of Mahler's Fourth Symphony. This second trumpet excerpt is a fun one to play and a great moment in the piece. The first 3 symphonies of Mahler are pretty grandiose pieces with large brass sections and very big symphonic forces. But the Fourth Symphony is a little bit of a break from that. It's also based on music that he previously composed, but this one is a little bit more concise and really focuses around one song. So let's take a look at Mahler's Fourth Symphony and the second trumpet excerpt that we love to play. I'm going to assume because you're watching this video that you're either a trumpet player or a brass player, and you already know the name Gustav Mahler, because he was a very prolific Romantic composer at the turn of the 20th century. Most of Mahler's symphonies are rather large in orchestration and in forces, but the Fourth Symphony, as I said earlier, is a little smaller in orchestration and has a much smaller brass section. There are only a few big moments for the trumpets here, and we're going to look at the one big moment in the first movement. Let's talk a little bit about the composition. He composed the piece around 1899-1900, and it is largely based on one of his previously composed songs, Das himmlische Leben. Sorry about my German. Or The Heavenly Life. Unlike his earlier symphonies, he only bases the symphony on this one song. This song depicts the afterlife and what life would be like in heaven. In fact, the final line of the song is, "All creatures awake with joy." Just hearing that kind of gives you a sense of happiness. Mahler took these ideas from the song and twisted and turned them in symphonic form. A perfect example of this is towards the end of the development in the first movement. The first trumpet has a solo in C major that's joyful and exciting, and it's sometimes called the Paradise theme. This Paradise theme is turned dark very quickly into Diminished, and then descends down to C sharp minor, kind of foreshadowing the funeral march at the beginning of the Fifth Symphony that most trumpet players know pretty well. In this moment, Mahler goes from happiness to darkness, considering life and death and the happiness, hell and heaven, all these kind of things, to transition to the recap of the first movement of the symphony. It's beautiful writing and a genius moment. It's also partly a second trumpet solo. Most of it you play with the first trumpet player and the third trumpet player, but you do get your moment, and I think you should enjoy it. So now let's look at the tools that we can use to learn this excerpt and to make the performance of the excerpt a little less daunting and more fun to play on stage. Oh, sorry. Not that blowing chunks. Last summer, I had the pleasure of working with an online trumpet seminar called Trumpet Forward. Ryan Dark put it together and brought a bunch of great trumpet players from around the country to do tutorials and master classes about many different topics. I taught at the seminar, but I also attended many of the classes, one of which was given by Jeffrey Strong of the LA Philharmonic. Jeffrey did a presentation on audition preparation, and part of the presentation included a thing he called blowing chunks. Not the other blowing chunks. This blowing chunks was to take the excerpt and break it down into chunks. And You take each one of these chunks and you work out the fundamental issues of each chunk, know what you're going to do musically in each section, and then you piece it back together again for a cohesive and refined final product. For the first chunk of the excerpt, let's talk about the nasty interval at the beginning, a G to A flat. This large interval can be a little tricky for some. What I like to do is use the Arbin's interval exercises, but I change them from major to minor to get the intervals that I'm looking for. You can do this with any exercise. Take the exercise as you know it, and then change it to suit your needs. I think this is how people come up with these etude books to begin with. So let's try the Arbin in C major, and then turn it into C minor, and then we get that nasty interval of G to A flat. For the second chunk, I want to talk about the diminished descending pattern that is the diminished version of the Paradise theme, the major trumpet solo before the second trumpet entrance. We want to work on the sound, the articulation, the length of notes to get the angst that we want, the turn from major to minor, the darkness that we want to get, kind of that angsty feeling. So work on these exercises with that in mind. C sharp is an awful note, so I like to use a tuner and a drone at times to work on finding the center of this C sharp. We got to find the balance of the slides. I like to use the first and third slides. And we also need to find the balance of the air in the embouchure, making sure that we're not gripping these low notes. So let's try doing just that, just a breath attack and finding a center of sound, experimenting with some bending and moving the slides to see where it is with the tuner. So once we find that, then do another exercise where you close your eyes, find that best sound, find the beauty, find the balance, find the relaxed feeling, and then open your eyes and see where you are. I was a little high. I'm going to try it again. little better. So each time you'll get better. This time I'm going to actually add some tonguing to it. You learn a lot by opening your eyes and seeing where you are in relation to the tuner and your sound. You might find that if you're really sharp or if you're really flat, if you adjust to the tuner to find a better balance, you might actually find a better sound. But always go for what you think is the best sound first, and then open your eyes and look at the tuner. I hope that helps. When working on intonation, I also like to use a drone occasionally. I have a keyboard back there that plays a good drone, but you could use a Tonal Energy app or another app that plays a nice sine wave drone. Something that's really calm and steady so that you can try to match the perfect intervals when you're working on your just intonation. Now that we've worked out the center of those C sharps, we can add a couple of the chunks together and have the descending diminished pattern to connect with the C sharp in tune with the drone. Don't forget to work on those pesky minor arpeggios. Here, it's a very soft minor arpeggio, F sharp minor, and we want to make sure that it still has that marcato sound and feel like a fanfare because it's a distant sounding fanfare. So we want to work on our minor arpeggios like in the Arban book or in the Sax Daily Fundamentals, which I'm going to demonstrate now, and keep that marcato and brilliant articulation even in the softer dynamic. Before I play the second trumpet excerpt for you from Mahler's Fourth Symphony, and also the excerpt in context with the trumpet section, I'd like to thank you for watching my tutorial. It really gives me great pleasure to know that people are getting something out of these videos. So please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next one. And please visit me and my colleagues at the Philadelphia Orchestra or at the Peabody Institute and Temple University, where you can reach me for private instruction. Also, thank you to Yamaha for these amazing trumpets and Ultimate Brass for making my line of mouthpieces. So, without any further ado, here is my example of playing the second trumpet excerpt by itself, and then in context with the first and third trumpets. Thanks again for watching, and good luck!